as in preparation for this, the subject is not new to me. As I said, my background very quickly, just, what qualifies me to do this, I lived for 6 years in Africa, traveled to 50 of the 54 African countries, invested in over 20,000 entrepreneurs across 54 African countries. If you're looking for solution providers, just go and talk to African entrepreneurs. As far as I'm concerned, having spent 6 years living there, and literally 400,000 applicants applying for this training, mentoring, seed capital program, I know that the solutions are there. I know that Africa does not need saving. It does not need ideas being parachuted into the continent from outside. What it's looking for is partnerships, is looking for collaborations, and is looking for co-creation and co-ownership of the capitals and the revenues and the development dividends that flow from it. I think the panel that we have here are addressing the panel time. Let me introduce you to the panel. Krista is the co-founder of ClimateAligned, a fintech innovator turning data into climate finance intelligence. It's an innovative use of fintech in relation to climate, and we'll hear more about that. Marianne, there you are, Marianne. My friend from my past, or EBRD, that is, leading sustainable infrastructure investment across MEA. No, she's not a director, okay. Ray, lovely to meet you. CEO of Energise Africa, unlocking retail investment for clean energy entrepreneurs. I could elaborate. I have like 10 pages of all your bios, but I think I won't. We'll take up the entire panel. And Kayode, Kayode and I, our paths crossed when we both worked. I worked at the Tony Elumelu Foundation. He worked in the more serious side of Tony Elumulu's empire called United Capital. I haven't seen him since 2019, so it's beautiful. But anyway, now you're independent as a VP Project Finance, Genesis Energy, right? Structuring complex deals to deliver power across the continent. So that's big structured financing. My only kind of experience of doing structured financing was in the creative sector. So the language of structured financing, of debt, of bonds, we applied it to the creative industry. Krista, you work at the frontier of climate-fintech. How can data, analytics, and digital platforms build investor confidence and unlock finance for smaller, decentralized projects? That's really...
Parminder, hi everybody. Nice to meet you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for having me. My background, as was alluded to, is in the green bonds market. So I've been trying to help figure out how we move capital more efficiently across the fixed income space, but also in smaller sort of project financing for the past close to 15 years. And I got so frustrated with the same questions and statements being made around we don't have enough data that I started a company to try and fix that. We're 3 years old. We're a venture-backed company based here in London. We have clients everywhere in the world, including on the African continent as of recently in some of the development banks working there. And the proposition is simple. I hear this conversation in everywhere that we work. We work with guarantee providers, we work with project financiers, we work with asset managers, institutional asset managers, to say, why can't I find enough pipeline that meets my view or standard or policy or regulatory guidelines of what is green? Simple as. So we all go through the same process, find the data, process the data into a format that makes sense, and then assess, does it meet or does it not meet? So it's things like collecting lots of PDF documents, Word documents, information in an email, somebody sending you stuff that you need to then add into that assessment, and trying to make sure that the requirements are met.
From the DFI's perspective, what are the key barriers stopping blended finance mechanisms from reaching those smaller energy access projects in the emerging markets?
I'm Associate Director in the SIMEA team. So it's our new team at EBRD merging energy and infra, including our new countries, including Sub-Saharan Africa, so which we are discovering in a way, and which are markets also quite different from what we have been working on in the past, to which we also need to adapt a little bit the way we function. And that will be also probably disclaimer in my answer, in the sense that the experience that we have at the moment on those countries remain limited.
The entire Sub-Saharan Africa?
So we have 6 countries in Sub-Saharan Africa, which are new from this year. So we start working on these ones. So we have Côte d'Ivoire, Benin, Senegal, Ghana, Kenya, and Nigeria. But yes, so far the way we've been working in Northern Africa, which would be probably the closest, implies often a blend of concessional and commercial pricings, different type of instruments. It can include also guarantee, it can include grants, it can include also technical cooperation, so where we finance studies, also to bring some additionality to the projects we finance.
But let me jump to Ray, Energise Africa. So that means you are based in Africa, working in Africa, for Africa, with Africa. No. Let me ask you the question. You've mobilized thousands of retail investors for energy access ventures. What has worked and what still needs to change to attract larger pools of private capital?
Great to be here. So I run Energise Africa. We're a retail investment platform, which basically means African entrepreneurs raise money from UK individuals to fund their projects and to fund their companies. They do that by issuing bonds, and it's debt funding that gets repaid over 6 months, 3 years, something depending on the bonds. We've raised about £46 million so far in the last few years, which makes us a very small player in this massive marketplace. So we don't have EBRD type money, unfortunately. What has worked is being able to connect ordinary people directly with projects and directly with entrepreneurs that want to raise money. We're not a fund. We're not asking people to give us their money and then we will decide where it goes and how it goes out. The money goes directly from the individual to the entrepreneur. What has worked has been funding local entrepreneurs that know the market, that know the solution, that know how to deliver in a way that works. Data is really, really important, but I would say that local knowledge is more important.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here, and thank you for inviting me, Joy, to this event. I think a lot has to do with what's already been discussed, which is the perception of risk, and we can never overemphasize that. Marianne, used the word, was just trying to learn and understand a lot of these countries in Africa. So what you find, especially in the energy space, is there is a very limited knowledge of how the market works. If you are bringing in capital, you're sitting in London, Hong Kong, Dubai, and you've probably just read the GDP report of Nigeria, and you see, there are opportunities here, but you don't have a local presence. You're gonna get it wrong. There's on a broader scale, to finance the kind of energy that Africa needs to develop, you've got to have a broad-based approach. Today, for instance, we've invested in about 10 African countries, or we're investing, let me put it that way, in 10 African countries, and we're deploying our capital, to de-risk projects. It's because we have a very strong local knowledge of the environment. So right now at Genesis Energy, we can, deploy 2, 3, 4, 5 million, US to de-risk projects before we then get the likes of EBRD to come in and finance on the longer time project finance, type of deal. But in terms of generally speaking, how attractive the market is, where the opportunities are, there's got to be a lot of restructuring as well. For instance, if you look at the entire energy value chain from generation to transmission to distribution, the most critical part of the journey for me will be in the transmission and distribution segment. And that is where you find less attention,
Krista, let's come back to you and talk, to elaborate more. I'm trying to get my head around climate-aligned, yeah? What is it? It's fintech, it's data plus climate, yeah? I guess, what are you, in terms of the kind of new instruments from blended finance, it'd be nice if you can explain what blended finance means, to green bonds is so vital. How does climate-aligned work with that, on that?
So I would like to build on some of what Kayode just said and also talk to some of Marianne's points. Now, who here has heard of ChatGPT? Hands up. Almost everybody, or the ones that are awake in the room. So everyone has heard of ChatGPT. The introduction of this technology, the underpinning large language models or LLMs, means that everything in documents is data. Language is now data. And the reason we don't have capital flowing more efficiently from the institutions that would like to allocate it, bar some of the really great examples like EBRD and some fellow DFIs, is that the narrative is wrong. The narrative is mismatched. It's not the numerical data, though of course there's some certain things that need to be established. If you're looking at a generation project, you'll look at volumes of generation and make this. So for those types of investments, often larger pools of capital, private capital in particular, will be well suited, and they would like to seize those opportunities as per the comments here, but they need, sadly, the systemic view of what a good project looks like, what definitions and whose definitions of greenness it needs to meet will not change very quickly.
Into that, to looking at sub-Saharan Africa. But I guess my follow-up question to your first one was really, how is the EBRD embedding gender equality, I guess, and community inclusion into its investment framework?
So yes, in each of our projects, we need to focus on certain key categorization, key aspects. So it's very often green projects, and we try to have as many of our projects as green. And obviously, when you work like me on renewable projects, it's relatively simple. But more and more, there is a focus on gender and inclusion. We had even the team name evolving, so that really now it's all about inclusivity. So it goes also way beyond just gender aspects.
How do you balance investor returns with the social imperatives of affordable and equitable energy access?
And we started about 3 months ago working with a London-based charity called Afford, which is a diaspora charity, and they're doing some work for us, some outreach work for us at the moment, to try and ask people from the African diaspora what they want from crowdfunding. What would they like to invest in? What would they like to see? How would they like to see us change our business to work better for them?
What are the must-have components that you would require for financing approval?
There's a lot of talk around renewable energy, sustainability and things like that. But for Africa to leapfrog, what sort of energy do we need? So we believe, for instance, at Genesis Energy, what is important is clean energy, right? Not renewables. Yes, renewables are great, but for Africa to move to the next level, you've got to have energy that is clean and energy that is constantly supplied in the scale that guarantees industrialization for Africa. So we should not be talking about, solar. Yeah, those are great. If you want to have solar beyond 12 hours, you've got to pay through your nose. And there isn't so much capital sitting in Africa. Purchasing power is low and all of that. So I think what is important is what is sustainable for Africa, what guarantees equality or equity, if you like, and what makes energy access, globally, affordable for the African population. It's 600 million people without electricity, can be better served if we focus on the bigger picture.
Thank you. Wow. Perfect. Okay.